coming over. This match has stopped. There's Michaels over with a middleweight challenged individual.
Pro wrestlers, particularly in WWE, have always been larger-than-life figures to a younger generation. Every generation of fans had a wrestler that they look up to. In the 80s, this possibly would have been Hulk Hogan. In the 90s, this would have been Bret Hart, The Rock, and Stone Cold Steve Austin. And then in the 2000s and beyond, this has been John Cena. However, there are instances of certain pro wrestlers becoming real-life heroes. They have performed heroic acts in the face of danger or adversity, and in the process have become immortalized thanks to their actions. Join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at 10 most heroic acts performed by WWE wrestlers. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists.
My thought process wasn't of me being safe. My thought process was he has a gun and there's other people. I don't want to hurt anybody else.
Number 10. Bam Bigelow saves 3 children from a house fire.
He's got it locked on. Bam Bam's tapping. Bam Bigelow is tapping.
Bam Bigelow is well known by fans for his amazing work in ECW, as well as main eventing WrestleMania 11 against Lawrence Taylor. Now, although nobody can ever discredit Bam Bam's work in the ring, in the year 2000 he performed one of the bravest acts possible. Now, the story goes that Bam Bam was on his way back from work from an ECW trip in Japan. When he was returning to his home at 3:30 in the morning, he noticed that a house was on fire and Bam Bam could hear children crying inside. But without a second thought, Bam Bam rushed into the house, grabbed the children and took them outside, saving their lives in the process. However, as a result of his heroic act, Bam Bam burnt 40% of his body and spent 2 months in hospital due to the severity of the burns on his body. Bam Bam would later describe his amazing action as the best move I ever did, which sums up his heroic act perfectly. Number 9. Daivari chokes out a train passenger. In 2012, former WWE star Daivari hit headlines after it was reported he was involved in a heated confrontation on a train. A drunken passenger began to cause problems on the train, and according to them, he threatened to kill everybody on the train. Daivari confronted the man and put the man in a rear naked choke until the police came to arrest him.
At the next stop, Daivari and another passenger throw Blair off the train.
That was the hardest part because he's a big fat guy. He's like 280 pounds. I had to like lug him out the door. He was like throwing out a dead ox.
Praise was directed at Daivari's courage to face danger full-on, and we could never have known what the drunken passenger would have done if Daivari wasn't there to intervene. Number 8. Becky Lynch rushes to help a fan suffering a seizure. Becky Lynch was without question the biggest star in wrestling in 2019. She was incredibly popular with fans, and this was solidified by her main event match at WrestleMania 35 and subsequent title win. In March of the same year, a wholesome story surfaced relating to Becky going the extra mile to assist a fan. During an autograph signing, a female fan began to suffer a seizure. Becky noticed this and without hesitation got out of her seat to assist the fan. Becky held it as tight as she could before the emergency services arrived. It was reported that Becky didn't proceed with the rest of the signing until she knew the fan was in safe hands. Number 7. Brodie Wyatt, the savior of lives. In JTG's book, he shares an amazing story relating to former WWE champion Brodie Wyatt. According to JTG, both he and Bray were almost in a devastating car crash with a reckless driver. Due to their annoyance at almost being in a road accident, the duo planned to catch up to the driver in order to offer a word or two about his driving. But as Bray and JTG were catching up to the car, the negligent driver's car made 6 complete barrel rolls into the side of the highway. The car landed upside down and smoke was emerging from the vehicle. JTG revealed that Bray sprung into action immediately. He began to help the passengers out of the vehicle, and JTG shortly followed in the heroic act. Now, it turns out the passengers were a bunch of teenagers who were late for a high school football game, and their main concern was not getting into trouble with their parents. But JTG would go on to call Bray a hero. Bray pulled those teens. Bray and I pulled those teens out of the car, and he never bragged about it to anyone. He didn't do it for the glory, he didn't do it for the accolades, he didn't do it so he could have a cool story to tell, and he didn't do it so he could put it in his second book. Bray did it because he clearly doesn't watch enough action movies to know that a smoking upside down vehicle could blow up at any second. Either way, Bray risked his life for some teenage swiping stupid a-holes that makes him a hero, and I helped. Number 6. Harry Smith saves a woman from ending her life. Harry Smith is mostly known by WWE fans for his time in the Hart Dynasty stable. Alongside Tyson Kidd, Smith would use the name of David Hart Smith, and the duo would win the WWE Tag Team titles. Now, Smith's WWE career would come to an end in 2011, but he's rumored to return to the company for some time now. He would even wrestle a dark match in the summer of 2021 before a SmackDown show. A wrestling career aside, Smith did something remarkable in his life that trumps all his wrestling achievements. One day, Smith was driving along in Calgary when he saw a woman on a bridge, and it looked like the woman was about to jump. Smith grabbed the woman to ensure that she couldn't jump, and he would wait with the woman until emergency services arrived so that she could get the help that she needed. Smith would discuss the incident on a Facebook post and revealed, "She was crying and she said she just wanted a hug, but as much as I wanted to hug her, I told her I couldn't hug her because she said she had a firearm. Miss, you're not going to move unless I want you to. I'm an expert grappler, and you're not going to shoot me. We will get you help. Life is a precious thing, and I'm here to help you." Number 5. Perry Satin saves a vulnerable woman. Perry Satin was involved in an altercation in 2004 which would change his life forever. Satin was taking his girlfriend to work when he noticed something that alarmed him. He witnessed 2 men forcing themselves on a vulnerable woman. He got into a physical confrontation with the 2 men, and it resulted in Satin being shot in the back of the neck as well as his right shoulder. The attackers then fled the scene. Unfortunately, his actions started a downward spiral for his health. He would become addicted to painkillers, and he would even eventually become homeless.
I have nothing left. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to struggle, and I don't want to be homeless. I'm scared. I'm terrified.
But none of this could ever take away from the heroism of Satin on that fateful day in 2004.
No, I didn't do it being tough. I don't know how. I'm lucky that he didn't kill me.
Number 4. Chuck Palumbo saves a woman by lifting a car. A former tag team champion, Chuck Palumbo, hit headlines in 2016 when it was revealed that he had saved a woman from a devastating car wreck. Palumbo was driving along when he discovered a car had tipped over on its side, and he amazingly managed to lift the vehicle up in order for the woman inside to free herself. Palumbo would offer the details of the incident with Pro Wrestling Sheet, adding, "I looked in the car and noticed just one person in the car, a woman who seemed to be going in and out of consciousness. I noticed she was pinned between the steering wheel and her arm was pinned under the car. I was able to lift the car enough so she could move her arm out." According to reports, as soon as the emergency services arrived, Palumbo took off and didn't hang around long enough to get any credit for his courageous actions. Number 3. Mr. Perfect saves his friend's life. And Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig, was well known for being one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. However, what many fans don't know is that Hennig once saved his friend's life. Back in 2001, Hennig and his friend were on a hunting trip when his friend got caught in a barbed wire fence. According to Hennig's friend, the barbed wire caused deep lacerations and it looked like he was going to bleed to death. Hennig decided to untangle the barbed wire himself, put his friend over his shoulder and take his friend to the nearest hospital for medical assistance.
And thank God he was there because he got me and wound up carrying me a mile on his shoulders. I was bleeding from my right leg. And
it's rather likely if Hennig didn't act quickly enough that his friend wouldn't have lived to tell this incredible story. Number 2. Chris Masters saves his mother from a house fire. Chris Masters in 2013 turned into a real-life Incredible Hulk after he showed incredible courage and strength in saving his mother from a house fire. Masters' mother was locked in a house with a neighbor, and the neighbor decided to deliberately set the house on fire. Masters sprung into action and he managed to pull out a tree from the ground to smash a window.
I told them, break those freaking windows. Break those freaking windows. She's in that room. Break those freaking windows. And that was the moment for me. I mean, I've never loved my mom more than that one moment.
Masters was able to pull his mother out without her suffering any major damage. And number 1, Shad Gaspard sacrifices his life to save his son. Shad Gaspard was a pro wrestler that was full of charisma and he was incredibly popular with fans, in particular when he formed Crime Time with JTG during the Ruthless Aggression era. In 2020, it was revealed that Shad made the ultimate sacrifice to save his beloved son. On May 17th, Shad and his son were caught in a strong current at Venice Beach. He would inform the lifeguards to save his son first, but once his son was saved, Shad disappeared underwater. The US Coast Guard and fellow wrestlers such as JTG and John Morrison searched 70 square miles of coast for Shad's body, but it simply couldn't be found. On May 19th, Shad's body was finally washed up on the shore. Ultimately, Shad passed away as a certified hero, and he's now celebrated worldwide not just for his wrestling contributions, but his sacrifice and devoted love to his son.
Is there a more heroic act? Shad to Araya is already a superhero, and now that's, his dad is the ultimate hero.
But there you have it, folks, 10 of the most heroic acts performed by WWE wrestlers. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.